Freak shows were these exhibitions where people with physical deformities were shown off as public spectacles. There were less extreme things such as tattoos, piercings, and displays of skill, such as fire eating and sword swallowing, like we have today. But the deformities were the main attraction. It was exploitative, but these performers had no choice because of ugly laws. If you were diseased, maimed, mutilated, or in any way deformed, you weren't allowed in public view. They were explicitly only allowed to work in freak shows if they wanted to survive. Just going to display a few images from this article here. I apologize for if this makes you uncomfortable. It makes me uncomfortable too. I just want to prove a point that there are people out there who like it when things are twisted. There are people out in this world who view deformities and mutilations as entertainment. Some of these displayed here have had children, and that means someone out there got off to the idea of freaks. They were getting their rocks off watching these freak shows. Here on this channel, we love nature and natural beauty, but some people out there, they love ugliness. There's something wrong with them, and I don't care if the medical books don't consider it a disease. Someone has to put it into the books because it's so far removed from nature. I also want to point out the immorality of the situation. How could anyone feel good about supporting this business? Yes, some of the performers were paid better than most people, but the ugly laws forced them into these professions, with explicit wording that allowed freak shows. Some people sat there, wrote laws, and passed them through the House and Senate, so they could enjoy freak shows. So, don't think that these were just some lower class people that funded it all. These freak show enthusiasts were in power. Famously, Jesus was crucified, and don't worry, I'm not here to talk about religion, but about the general reasoning behind public executions. Entertainment. Yes, it was used to deter criminals and punish them, but the purpose was also public entertainment. There's lots of ghastly execution methods, which, don't worry, I'm not going to show anything else besides the sketch, but I will describe it to you. This contraption was used to hold people until they died of starvation, thirst, or exposure. If you were lucky, they would execute you before and only use it to display your corpse to deter criminals. It was like crucifixion without the nailing your hands and feet part. People were getting off to the sadism. The public loved seeing people suffer as they died. There's many other incredibly sadistic punishments that happened, which I'm not going to describe, but you can use your imagination. There are people out there who love the idea of people getting torn apart and cut up to die as painfully as possible. There's also people who hate nature and love seeing beauty destroyed, with people losing their limbs and getting disfigured. The kind of people that lived back then are the kind of people that are still around today. The people who enjoyed public execution centuries ago are the people who enjoyed freak shows last century.
Having no limbs is incredibly. There's something there, okay? There's something there. No arms, no legs, no resistance.
I'm using this clip to prove a point, not to attack myths. I'm not saying that just because someone gets off or is entertained by the idea of bad things happening to people that they're evil. I'm not claiming that someone who has a kink that violates ethics would cross that moral event horizon, but that these people exist in high enough numbers to sustain businesses and gain real power. We have to be cautious of the true reasons these people could be motivated by. For some people, as long as they can get their rocks off, and I'm talking sexually or otherwise, nothing else matters. No ethics or public health. Because leaving a corpse in a public square is a health hazard that you instinctively smell and want to get away from, but the people in power didn't care about transgression against the public. They just wanted to terrorize people with the sight and smell of corpses. Punishing criminals was the moral cloak for public executions. They wanted to see anyone suffer, and a significant percentage of the reasoning was to get the rocks off, even if some of the reasoning was to protect society. You can greenlight or do things for multiple reasons, but I don't doubt that there were times that cruelty was chosen over mercy because it turned people on or because it was fun for people to watch. Reading history, you feel disturbed but also gain faith in humanity. Morally, we acted incredibly evilly towards each other. Torturing criminals to death was the lowest form of kicking people while they were down. If we can move past these atrocities, I have faith that we can move past anything we want. We can change the public consciousness to ban today's cruelty. Getting raw milk legalized is seemingly nothing in comparison, nor is banning circumcision or banning dogs. Imagine being a serf or peasant in medieval times and the Lord got everyone to watch the public execution and everyone else around you cheered. What realistic avenue did you have to protest against it? You say something and you risk the Lord's ire and were socially ostracized, which would have been a lot worse back then. Somehow, over the centuries, the good people of this world were able to change society for the better. We have it far easier, so we have even less of an excuse for not working to change our ways. These freak show enthusiasts didn't get better. Public opinion simply turned against these activities, and they were forced to change the laws to maintain their power. Some people who enjoyed public executions and freak shows put the morals first, and the darkest desires last, and the world was able to move on from our shameful past. But these people are still around. I don't believe that these dark desires can ever leave people, so they find socially acceptable outlets or less dangerous ones. Bodybuilder shows, for example. Everyone understands that these people aren't natural, but some people find it hilarious that these people are destroying their bodies, so they fund it. Dogs are mutants and have all sorts of deformities from inbreeding that makes life hell for them, but still, people continue to breed them for their amusement. Banning them and having the government legally exterminate them would be mercy. It's the most mutated dogs that dog owners gawk over the most.
How our dog obsession may actually be making their lives miserable. So she admits that there is an obsession. But how are the dogs' lives miserable? Their lives are miserable by simply existing. Existing. What actually makes these things miserable is the fact that you refuse to exterminate them. Again, if you really love them, you would exterminate them. If you were truly a decent person with high morals, you would exterminate them. You would beg your government to exterminate them, right? Let me be clear with that. I don't want anybody trying to, flag me or take this the wrong way. I don't support anyone going out and breaking the law, attacking dogs. All right, that is against the law. What I'm saying is that I want the governments to sanction it. I want there to be laws that you can kill these things on sight. Not only that, the police themselves go around looking for them. All dog owners, take your dogs to some shelter and have them euthanized. That is the moral thing to do. Now, this is a bulldog, the same mutt that was on that commercial. Now, talk about being a mutant. This is on a whole nother level. Breathing difficulties, Skin folds may lead to infection, irritation. Elbow and hip joints may be painfully malformed. Eyelid may fold and irritate the eye. Not only that, infect the eye, can lead to blindness. Extreme difficulty exercising, usually incapable of natural birth and mating. When these things reproduce, it's not natural. It has to be manipulated by man. That's how deformed these things are. But it's not just bulldogs. I call these things mutants for a reason. I'm not exaggerating. Even dogs that are generally seen as normal, these mutants are deformed. And if you had any true decency inside you, you would exterminate them. How could you love these things and be content with their suffering? Not only suffering, but their enslavement. Basically, animals, like humans, are designed to be free. Don't tell me you love them if you're willing to keep them trapped, to deny them the life that nature appointed to them or granted them. This is a golden retriever, prone to retina malformation and other eye problems that may cause loss of vision, significant risk of cancer death, increased likelihood of skin allergies, talking about the fur, prone to hip pain from joint malformation. Again, it's a golden retriever. May inherit potentially fatal heart defect. May suffer elbow pain due to joint malformation. How can you feel good about breeding these things? I mean, think about it. You have to be a psycho. You want to breed these deformed creatures that suffer all throughout life. Why? Just because you think they're cute? Because you want to feel special by interpreting their obsession with food as attention for you, as a love for you? Virtually all of these mutts are deformed like this. Of course, we know pugs are very malformed. Prominent eyes may bulge out of sockets. Of course, they have breathing problems. At risk of overheating during exercise. High blood pressure. This dog lover really revealed a lot of serious, important information in this article. It's a pretty good article. Skin folds leading to irritation. Curly tail accompanied by malformed spine and weak hind legs. Why would you want something like this to continue to give birth to other disfigured creatures? That's like sadistic, really. You really have to be an evil person, brainless person, and evil to want these things to exist. Put them out of their misery. That's the humane thing to do. Ease their suffering by eliminating them. At the very least, they would eliminate the most deformed dogs, like pugs, bulldogs. No, that type of human decency, it never kicks in. The most deformed dogs, in many ways, are the most admired and desired by these people. Pomeranian, These things are mutants, people. Mutants. No other creature on this planet has this many problems with their very bodies. Eyelid can fold inward. What type of creature has eyelids that fold inward? A mutant. Something not natural to this planet. And it seems like they all have joint problems, heart problems, right? Many people have no idea that Pomeranians, right, dogs like golden retrievers, are deformed mutants. The Basset Hound. I mean, look at it. Does that look natural to you? I mean, can you not tell that something's wrong with this thing? Its face hanging off its skull. Ears. Look at these ears. You know full well ears are not supposed to do that. And so, as you can see, there is no arrow pointing at the ears. There are more problems with these things than even this article points out, right? A dark, warm, moist environment, the ears. It increases the chances of infection, parasites. Difficulty exercising, hip problems, deep chest may lead to painfully bloated stomach. They claim to love these things. Prone to developing glaucoma and loss of vision. You love these things, right? The boxers. All of them. They're all mutants. They're all deformed. Breathing problems. Gum tissue may overgrow teeth. Again, heart defects. Prone to epileptic seizures. Very high risk of cancer. These are not natural animals. People, think about it. You even have German shepherds. German shepherds. You know, most of us, we think about deformed dogs. We think of the bulldog. We think of the pug. Add German shepherds to the list. They are at risk for cataracts, leading to blindness. Deep chest can lead to painfully bloated stomach. Prone to hemophilia. May develop pancreatic disorder causing weight loss. Prone to hip pain and loss of back leg function. Often experiences leg pain. You want to really continue to breed these things. How inhumane is that? What do you get out of their suffering? That's the question. Everything is a facade with this dog nut culture. Even their very love for these things. It's not real. Of course, we all know these sausage mutts are very much deformed. So this is a fake love. It's not love at all. It's not love at all. It is an obsession with something that helps to reinforce their mental and social disorders.
Those sick people who enjoyed freak shows of the previous century are now enjoying the dog shows of today. Some people are getting off at seeing dogs deformed. Breeding dogs is the equivalent of intentionally breeding humans that end up disabled and deformed, as in the pictures I showed before. Some of these dogs are so deformed that they're unable to mate without human assistance. That's how far gone some of these breeds are. These people don't love dogs. If I don't see the love, There is no love. Why would you intentionally bring these things into the world just to suffer? Their dog love is a moral cloak to indulge in their sickness. Sometimes because they're freak show enthusiasts, and sometimes because they're zoophiles. These people are not nature lovers or animal lovers. In fact, wolves, the supposed ancestors of dogs, mug dogs to death. Dog owners often hate cats because they don't give them as much attention as dogs, and wolves who get the same treatment once they realize that natural predators are very shy and actively avoid humans, even leaving the kills.
Now, I pointed this out yesterday. When you look at a mutant next to its ancestors, it puts emphasis on their deformities, right? It highlights the mutation. Now, if this was your first time seeing both of these creatures, and I told you that this thing actually came from this animal, you would wonder how that happened. That is a head scratch. The first thing you would ask is how? What happened? Now, again, I don't believe in having pets. I'm not an animal fan. The only time I enjoy seeing animals is when they are in their own environment, their natural environment. Then I will observe from a distance. That said, wolves are natural animals, and you can really tell when you look at them next to dogs. Wolves actually blend in with nature, right? You see the similarities between wolves and other natural animals on the planet. Dogs do not look natural whatsoever. Now, this ugly, worthless, nasty, saggy face mutt looks as if its face is sagging off of its skull. You can clearly see that this is a mutation. Cannot hold its ears up. Again, perfect environment for bacteria, infections, parasites. Look at the thing's mouth. How its mouth is all wrinkled and jagged. It has a perfect environment for parasites, bacteria, all over its face because it has wrinkles and folds all over its face. This thing looks like it is melting, like it is literally melting. The mutation is so bad, these mutts look like they are disintegrating, and they are actually stuck in a very early stage of development. Yes, it needs to be put down. These people claim to love dogs. If you love them, you will put them out of their misery, right? They suffer all throughout life. We're going to go over some of these genetic defects that these mutts have. Here's another one. You clearly see the difference. The wolf looks like a natural animal. The dog is an abomination, people. This is an abomination. When you have a mutant with deformities that is virtually completely different from what it mutated from, you are now looking at an abomination on this earth. And if you really had any decency, you would stop breeding these things. How is it a moral decision to continue to breed living creatures that are deformed, that have hip displacement issues, breathing issues, diseases, seizures, so on and so forth? These people claim to love these things. If they really did, they would put them out of their misery, right? They would sterilize all of them. Another one, you clearly see that this thing is something wrong with it. Hair has grown in front of its eyes. How is that beneficial in nature? That is not only annoying, that's dangerous. That could cost you your life someday. Like I said, their hair gets parasites on them, and sometimes it gets into their eyes, impairs their vision. Sometimes these mutts even go blind as a result of their hair hanging in front of their face. An animal's fur is not supposed to do that. The wolf has a full coat of fur, and the hair grows at a perfect distance around its face, just like a lion. Lions are known for their long manes, but have you noticed that it is never a hindrance? Nature pushed that hair back far enough where it does not cause a problem. So if you truly love dogs, why would you continue to even breed them? Right? If you had any respect for nature, you would stop breeding them. It is that simple. Here's another one of those smashed face mutts. Now, you got to wonder, how is it even possible that this ugly thing came from this? Dogs, they don't even blend in with nature anymore. Not like the wolf, right? The wolf looks like it's in its natural environment. The dog has no natural environment. What kind of creature has a mouth that hangs? This thing's jaw, its face, is literally hanging off of its skull. Again, that causes all kinds of problems for these mutants. And these dog owners view the deformities as cute. Think about that. What type of people would do that? Would view these abnormalities, these deformities that actually causes dogs to suffer. They actually view it as cute, as a variety that they're offered. Unbelievable, right? And you have a whole litany of mutts that it's unbelievable that these things actually came from wolves. This thing does not look at home in any environment whatsoever. But it is far more suitable for the wild than it is our territory, in our communities, inside our homes. Right? These things are hideous. Yes, look at its legs. It is a surprise that this thing, that those are legs. This is a mistake, people. This is something that has no business existing. And people claim to love these things, these deformed creatures that suffer, have breathing issues non-stop. Absolute madness. And like I said, the lion, the wolf, you can clearly see these are natural animals. These are not. And you can clearly see it. These things look like mutants. They look like the exact mutants that they actually are. And these people claim to love these things and continue to breed them. That is a huge mistake. Physical differences between dogs and wolves. Both wolves and dogs have the same number of teeth, but they, along with the skull and jaw, are larger and stronger in the wolf. So wolves have larger, stronger teeth, a larger skull, a larger jaw. So it's almost as if dogs, well, they did literally start to devolve, right? They started to go backwards, become recessive. And they are not really, they look like a totally different species apart from wolves. To me, it's hard to believe that these are both canines. To me, dogs look like straight up mutants. It says wolves are shy, dogs are usually not. Despite being portrayed in some outlets as vicious, experts say that wolves are actually shy and will avoid people. It's also incredibly rare that a wolf will attack a person. People, can you say that about dogs? Especially these vicious dogs, these pit bulls and Rottweilers. You cannot say that about dogs. Again, dogs attack more people than any other animal. Yes, wolves act intelligent. I'm going to go into the fact that wolves are more intelligent. Because when these things mutated, their brains mutated. They became dumber. That's why they bark. Barking is an act of stupidity, of brainlessness, of not being in full control of your faculties. It says a researcher who was examining wolf behavior would approach the prey. The wolf would approach the prey, or the researcher would approach the kill made by the wolf. Now, when you approach a dog's food, they become aggressive. But the wolves would run away, just like the mountain lions we talked about, just like all other animals. They run away. Dogs will attack you. This is a part of their mutated brains. Their behavior is not natural. And this is what these dog nuts are trying to project, that everything about dog behavior is natural. No, it is not. You even see stark differences from the ancestors of the dogs, which proves to you that dog behavior is not natural. So here, it's not only physical, but behavioral. These things are not natural. And you actually think it's moral to continue breeding these deformed mutants. It is outrageous. Listen, wolves are stronger problem solvers. Listen to that. Studies looking at problem solving abilities in wolves and dogs show that when a problem becomes more difficult, dogs will eventually quit. Listen to that, people. These things regressed, became dumber as they mutated. It says in one study, dogs and wolves had to work together to solve a puzzle in order to get a treat. They had to pull a rope at the same exact time in order for the tray to slide in and give them foods. The wolves figured it out quickly. The dogs never really figured out the problem until they had a human teach them that they need to pull the rope. Listen to that. Clearly, these mutts have a recessive brain. It says even more fascinating was that when the testers made the puzzle more challenging, the wolves still succeeded. The wolf would wait until the other wolf was let into the experiment so they could get the treat together. So these stupid mutts, they have no business in nature, not only based on their physical state, but also their mental state. These things are stupid. Now, I have no idea how long they would survive in the wild. Now, a lot of people might refer to stray dogs, but stray dogs still feed in human territory. They invade human territory. The only dogs that live in the wild are wild African dogs. There may be some wild dogs in Asia or whatever, but wild dogs, they can survive. These stupid mutants cannot. They are nothing like the wolves that they mutated from. Wolves are tight with the family units they form early on, but they're definitely not accepting of strangers and will never look to humans for affection or guidance. They're far too independent for that. What does that remind you of? Cats, other animals. They don't need you. It's only these mutts that come up sniffing around, looking for some food, something free, expecting you to pull out some food for them like a stupid, brainless mutant. A creature like that has no business existing on this planet. It says much research has been done lately about the different ways that dog puppies and wolf puppies develop, and it has been discovered that dogs are slower to develop and don't open their eyes or socialize as early as their wolf counterparts. Listen to that. Listen to that. So in every way possible, these things are deformed, abnormal. And these dog lovers claim to love these things. Can you believe that? It is absolute madness. People know they can entrap and can't talk. Yeah, as people need drooling psychopaths that they can entrap and can't talk back. That's a problem in itself. That you want a living creature that cannot communicate but is capable of killing you and your family. You know, can you imagine? Let me see something. Let me pull something up here real quick. There. Could you imagine humans or a human who behaved like dogs? Could you imagine a human who could not talk, could not communicate, right? You let them inside of your home. You talk to them, and all they have is a blank stare. They don't respond. They don't talk. They're totally silent in regard to language, but they grunt. You wouldn't accept a person like this in your home. They sit there farting, grunting, slobbering, sniffing all over people. There is no way you would want to be around a human like that. So why be around a dog? And imagine if on top of that, this mute was deadly, could kill you anytime it wants. It doesn't communicate, so you cannot gauge its mentality, what it's thinking. Why would you want any creature to live in your home like that is beyond me, right? It is absolute madness. It says also, wolf puppies are only born in the spring. Listen to that. Again, wolf puppies are only born in the spring so that they can become stronger and sturdier before facing the winter. Domesticated female dogs can have puppies any time of the year. Another abnormality, another deformity, another example of a creature that should not even exist. When I talk about dogs deserving to be exterminated, it is not purely out of disgust or hatred. It is also based on facts, their actual physical and mental state, behavioral state. They are out of sync with nature in every way possible. And humans should definitely send them into extinction, people. There's really no excuse for these things to have made it this far to still be on this planet today. Dogs' priority, get as much food as possible. Yeah, and they will eat themselves to death. Dogs. They will not stop eating. I showed an example of dogs that needed their stomachs pumped. What kind of stupidity is that? Right? These things will break into huge bags of dog food and will not stop eating. They will eat themselves sick, eat themselves to death. That is very much out of sync with nature. Because wolves don't get hip dysplasia because their genetics haven't been screwed up by selective breeding like dogs. A wolf who develops hip dysplasia likely won't live long enough to breed because it can't keep up with the pack. So the genes that are responsible for hip dysplasia aren't passed along. I'm going to also leave a link to this article. Many of you may be aware of it, titled "The 6 Most Common Genetic Disorders in Dogs." And it mentions hip dysplasia. Genetic disorders in dogs. The first one, hip dysplasia. Urinary bladder stones, epilepsy, heart disease. People, what is this? Degenerative myelopathy. What the hell is that? A neurological condition. That's another thing. These things are notorious for having seizures. Your neurological system is your energy system. That's your brain and your spinal cord. If you naturally have deformities with that, people, you should not be on this planet. There's an exception when it is every now and then. There is a genetic problem. But here, it is unique to certain breeds. How can you love something and continue to breed it with conditions like this? And of course, these mutts that have a problem breathing, these things are permanently deformed and they have no business on this planet. It says when breeding for certain characteristics, often unhealthy genes are located along with desirable genes. Continued breeding for the desirable traits often concentrates the undesirable genes. That's why some breeds are known for certain conditions, such as eye problems with pugs, breathing difficulties, with all, what is that? So certain breeds, as we know with pugs, boxers, bulldogs, it is in their genes to have difficulty breathing, to have ear problems, skin problems, neurological problems. How can you love creatures like this? Again, if you loved them, if you respected them, you would put them out of their misery. You would not allow them to reproduce. It says wolves, on the other hand, don't pass undesirable genes on because those with unwelcome genes don't live long enough to pass them on. It's called natural selection. Now, the guy in that video went over this. So this mutt right here is already a mutant. These photos are from 1919, people. This is about 100 years ago. So these things are continuing to mutate. They were already mutants. And this crazy, disgusting breeding of these mutts is causing them to mutate even more. And what do they think about this? What do the dog lovers think about this? They think it's cute. How crazy is that? To look at deformities that causes them to suffer, and you call it cute. Right? I want one of these dogs. I want one of those dogs. Right? Yes, they are literally monsters. Monsters that should not even exist. People, this is madness. Absolute madness. And what the hell is wrong with this thing's head? How did that even happen? A round head, like a boomerang. All kinds of deformities. Look at it next to its ancestor. It becomes even more obvious that this thing is a huge mistake. A huge mistake. And that it should not even exist on this planet. This is absurd, people. Yes, what is up with that nose? This thing looks like a part rat, a part pig. Like it has no business on this planet whatsoever. And it doesn't. All types of deformities. These dachshunds, I believe this is. They have joint disorders. They have bone underneath the cartilage of joints that die due to a lack of blood flow. And the bone and cartilage can break loose, causing pain and possibly hindering joint motion. Right? Osteochondritis dissecans. What is this? Elbow and hip dysplasia. These are the problems with these particular mutts. Droopy eyes, which can cause infections or corneal disease. Yet they look at these things and they think to themselves, cute. I want one of those. How twisted is that? You should look at these things and feel sorry for them. That they even have to exist. Basset hound, thank you. Basset hound. On these sausage mutts. And these things, they look as if they are wondering what they themselves are doing in existence. You know? Anything with this many problems. And these people, trust me, they are aware that these dogs have these particular problems and they don't care. That's why I say these people do not love dogs. They don't love these things. They view them as inanimate objects. They have no feelings toward them whatsoever. How can you love something and not feel uncomfortable with that thing's suffering and living in such discomfort? It is madness. I believe this is a boxer, shows, now again, this is from 1919. It's about 100 years ago. And it talks about how the face has become even more squished in. Nasty looking, deformed mutants that have no business on this planet. Again, when I say these things should be exterminated, people, it is not merely based on my hatred for them. difficulty breathing, and controlling their body temperature in hot weather. These things suffer. Spinal issues, right? That leaves them susceptible to spinal cord injury. And they are highly prone to cancer. And yet again, they look at these mutants and they think to themselves, cute. You can even see this thing as its face became more squished, the skin started to hang even more from its face. Because again, when the face flattens, the skin that used to be there stays there. And it creates more wrinkles and folds, more environments for parasites, bacteria, germs, so on and so forth. A warm, dark environment. Absolute madness. You have the English bulldog. This was an English bulldog 100 years ago, right? They face issues all over their body, including eyes, ears, teeth, respiratory system, and nose problems. They die at around 6.25 years. There really is no such thing as a healthy bulldog. People, listen to that. The bulldog's monstrous proportions make them virtually incapable of mating or birthing without medical intervention. People. And they want to convince us that they are people of high morals for owning these things. Yes, it's horrifying when you see what's going on. This is madness. This is like something out of a movie. Right? You cannot write this stuff. Absolute madness. Absolute madness. These are mutants with a wide variety of mutations and deformities. And these people look at it as cute. That is absolute madness. Absolute madness. Such a very important purpose. They can walk without. Yes, yes. Right. So this thing, after 100 years, its face is even more squished. Right. It was very much flat 100 years ago. And now it is even more squished. This wrinkle on its nose is so big that it is covering part of its vision. How can you not have a problem with something existing in this state and claim to love it at the same time? Again, these people don't love these things. They are simply obsessed with them because these mutants enable them to act out and give life to their mental disorders, treat their mental disorders. These dog owners have absolutely no love whatsoever for these things and no respect for them. They would be uncomfortable just owning them if they loved and respected dogs. Me saying that these things should be exterminated is a greater show of respect than what these dog lovers show them. Because they should be put out of their misery. They don't belong. Exactly. What is that? What is that? And people, can you imagine? They kiss these things. How can you look at something like this and feel an urge to kiss it? To let it sleep in your bed? Are you out of your mind? Absolutely madness. This is madness, people. Enough to make you vomit. Even the German shepherd. They look very close to their ancestors, but they also have deformities. They are larger today than they were 100 years ago. And this change in body size has led to issues such as hip and elbow dysplasia, and even the painful bone condition panosteitis, whatever that is. So the fact that it is still a mutant, it has caused deformities, even in the dogs that look very much close to its ancestors. So these dogs as well have no business existing on this planet. None whatsoever. These are no longer wolves. I don't care if their ears stand up or not. These are abominations. And they should be gotten rid of. Simple as that. What is this? I think it's a Saint Bernard, right? And you know, you don't have variations like this among any other animal group. You don't see deer that vary like this, right? Where they look like totally different species. You don't see horses that look like this with all these variations, breathing problems, all this crap. And yet they look at it and they don't see the problems that the dogs deal with. They see cuteness. They see variety. Again, that is not love, people. So this mutt, the Saint Bernard, is bigger today than it was 100 years ago. Today, it is oversized. It has had its face squished in and bred for abundant skin. You will not see this type of dog working. They can't handle it as they quickly overheat. People, listen to that. It's essentially torture to keep these things in existence. That is a display of wrongdoing, really of animal abuse. It's animal abuse to even permit these things to continue to exist. So again, me saying that they should be exterminated, people, that is doing the dogs a favor. They should not be here. Yes. Yes, it will overheat. It's too big, and if it starts to do any type of work, it will overheat and become exhausted. Yes, yes. The saliva has multiple risks. Dogs carry worms, 3 types of bacteria that cause this. Here, let me read that. 3 types of bacteria that causes gangrene, etc. And people let these things lick cuts and lick their mouths, lick their babies. That is really absurd to me. You know, you got to know these people got serious brain damage. Serious brain damage. Right? It is absolute madness. So all of these mutts are deranged. They are all deformed. Their larger body of these Saint Bernards leads to issues such as hip and elbow dysplasia, along with eye conditions. People, it's almost as if every single dog carries some type of deformity. Some type of natural problem is going on with these things. You got these hot dog mutts. He talked about this in that video. This is, again, only 100 years ago. The legs are shorter. Look at the legs. They've almost disappeared now. Its big, long body. This is an abomination, people. It was a mutant back then. And it has mutated even more. And what do these dog lovers see when they look at it? Something that's even more cute. It is absolute madness. Again, these people do not love these mutants. They simply use them. Look at that mutt. Look at that worthless, nasty mutt. Its legs have gotten significantly smaller. It seems to be common for the legs of a dog to change size after breeding. But the Dachshund is unique because its body has gotten noticeably longer and thinner. This leads to numerous health issues, such as intervertebral disc disease. Obesity is especially dangerous to them because their awkward form can barely carry itself as it is. Again, to allow these things to exist itself is animal cruelty. These dog nuts get off on being advocates against animal cruelty. That's all they talk about. Do not harm dogs. Animal cruelty. We love dogs. People, allowing these things to exist is animal cruelty. It is actually doing a service to the world and to dogs to exterminate them. That's the facts. Absolute facts. Right? This is absolute madness. So, you also have this barking phenomenon. Now, I did not know that barking can cause several problems for humans: headaches, anxiety, and other issues. But like I said before, wolves don't bark. They may bark as cubs and juveniles, but dogs bark all throughout life. They say the reason for non-barking behavior from wolves is that in the wild, wolves know that if danger is present, the best thing to do is be as quiet as possible, staying hidden until the threat has passed. Now, to add on to that, it is also good to be silent if you have prey nearby. You don't want to be no stupid barking mutt that's going to give your location, your presence away. But a stupid mutt will see prey from a distance, and what does it do? Starts barking at it, as if to say, hey, I see you, you better run. I'm giving you the perfect opportunity to take off and start running. Absolute madness. Thank to LP for the super chat. People, we have to bring attention to this. Now, mature wolves, it says in the wild, don't bark like dogs do. That behavior is limited to cubs and juveniles. What does that tell you? It tells you that dogs are stuck in a juvenile stage of development in regard to their brain and their outer body. They are like underdeveloped. And they will bark at absolutely nothing. We all know this. So again, in the wild, stupid mutts barking at nothing, barking at trees, just giving all the animals nearby the notification that they need to leave, run away. So these stupid mutts would probably just starve to death if they were released into the wild. First thing they would do is start barking like the brainless mutants that they are, and all of their prey would run away. Absolutely ridiculous. Now, dogs are still more suited for the wild than they are suited for human territory. I talked about that. And I believe this is a Labrador Retriever. This is the dog that, a lot of people claim is normal looking. It is absolutely not. It does not blend in with nature like the wolf. It does not. Again, these floppy ears, right? Perfect environment for parasites, bacteria, infections. This thing does not look at home in nature, but with that said, they are definitely not at home in our territory. What does that mean? That the moral thing to do would be to get rid of them, to exterminate them. If they can't live in peace in nature and they cannot live in our territory, the right thing to do is exterminate them. They have no place in society whatsoever. And I'm not even mentioning based on attacks, water contamination, just based off what they are. It is immoral to keep them in existence, and especially immoral to continue to breed these things. It is absolute madness. Yes, dog owners are full of parasites, bacteria. This is why I don't touch these people, man. Don't touch them. I know a lot of people, they don't want to be rude. Uh, so just say that you're a germaphobe. You don't shake hands, right? Come up with something if you don't want to offend people. Or just tell them, I don't shake hands. You know, this COVID era is very convenient. It gives you an excuse to stay away from people. I've done it several times already. Even in this COVID era, these people will try to get close to you when they talk to you. I've always hated that. It's like, man, when you get back, I can hear you just fine 6 feet away. I hate when people get all up in my face when they want to talk. So much that you can feel their breath on your face. What makes you think I want you that close to me? But in this COVID era, we have the privilege of telling people to keep their distance. I've done it several times and it feels great every single time I do it. Stay back. These people are full of germs, bacteria, parasites, and the disgusting thing is they will rub on these mutts, allow these mutts to lick on them, and they will go directly to work without sanitizing their hands, without washing their hands. They will go straight to work and start shaking other people's hands, touching things. Absolutely disgusting. So keeping dogs, being a dog owner, literally it contaminates you as a human. How can you possibly be comfortable with that? Especially if you are a person who prides yourself on cleanliness. Welcome to longtime contributor Nikola Tesla. Has contributed a lot of very important information on this channel. I'm going to make Tesla a moderator as well. This is immoral, people. Absolutely immoral. So it flies in the face of everything they stand for. They claim to stand for dog rights, being nice to dogs. And here it is, just to have these things in existence is dog abuse, animal abuse. They are so deformed as mutants, they should not even exist on this planet. Absolute madness.
There are probably some people out there who get off on the idea of people getting mauled by dogs. Why not? There are people who get off on the idea of amputees. We know that morality means nothing to some people in the world. They'll use any excuse, any justification to keep getting off. That's why I banned these people off my channel. I'm very aware of all the rhetorical tricks they use. For them, words are a way for them to get what they want. They use words to deceive not to reach an understanding, so I don't waste time talking to them. They want to appear like they're trying to reach an understanding, but what they really want to do is distract me. They hate nature and they hate that they're being exposed, so they concern troll. There's many flavors of freak show enthusiasts. Feeders are a group of people who get off at the idea of feeding people into obesity, making them get larger and larger. They don't care about health, they just want to get off at the idea. Don't you think people are getting off at the idea of society as a whole getting larger and larger? Do you think these people would enact or vote for policies that promote obesity? Exposing these people is societal self-defense. All sorts of degenerate filth in this world, and we have to call it out. It's not enough that these people engage in these freak shows. They just have to try to normalize it and spread it around society, and other countries as well. The dog nursery came from medieval Europe, and then to the United States, and now it's all over the world. That includes so-called geopolitical enemies such as Russia, China, and Iran. You don't think American dog nursery played a role in the dog meat trade getting banned in South Korea? The United States is the most dangerous country on earth, not just in military but in soft power. People just can't help themselves but let themselves be brainwashed by American TV shows, cartoons, and movies. I don't even necessarily believe that dogs came from wolves, and if they do, they're inbred and mutated versions of wolves. For all we know, dogs could be some genetically engineered chimeras that were released into the world by the elites. Saying that dogs are natural animals or like wolves is worse than saying that people with Habsburg jaws are examples of natural humans. The inbred are complete mockeries of the natural order. Dogs, with all their problems, are the greatest examples of this. Look at the list of health problems Charles II suffered throughout his life. A severe underbite that made proper speech impossible, an enlarged tongue, rickets, dizziness, epilepsy, rashes, leg ulcers, poor vision, and hearing impairment. Not only physical problems, but mental as well. Couldn't read and write at 9 years old, lacked emotional development, and was deemed unfit to rule for much of his life. Doesn't this remind you of the problems dogs have? You know, when they talk about dogs being purebred, they mean inbred. Today, we view these royals as a special type of evil. All this effort to keep power in the family, never mind the suffering of the descendants. But there isn't even any practical reason for people breeding dogs. It's purely to feed their narcissism so they can gawk at dogs. These people aren't very far away from people who enjoy freak shows. They love mocking nature. I hate dogs, but I also pity them. The ostensibly lovers doom them to this lifetime of suffering. Just breeding them so that they can gawk at them. How disgusting and immoral is that? Them, quote unquote, loving dogs is nothing more than a moral cloak for them to continue gawking.